Yeah, so I found a lot of the language you were using and some of the points you were making about Israel to be rather incorrect. And I'll start off by talking about you claiming that there's a genocide going on in Israel. And so, are you aware of what the definition of genocide is?
Yeah,
What is
I've
it?
cited it. I've cited it truly so many times. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to repeat it one more time. So, genocide means the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. And
Where'd you get that definition? Because that's not the definition
I
that
got it
Israel has signed
from
on to.
I got it from the Oxford Dictionary.
Okay, so I'm going to use the international law one because that's the one I'm referencing and that's the one that I'm holding Israel to account to because that's what it's accountable to.
So, you want
It's
to
pretty close.
you want okay, so
So it's Article 2 of the Convention
you want to read it to
describes
me?
genocide. That's
I
what I'm
don't,
doing.
all right, yeah, go for it.
Article 2 of the Convention describes genocide as a crime committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group in whole or in part. To get more specific, we can read off the actus reus and mens rea of it. So the crime committed, right? So the specific crime could be killing of the members, serious bodily harm or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births, or forcibly transferring children of the group. The mental element is to intend to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such. And the physical element is one of those things, one of those five acts enumerated.
And so, if Israel's purpose is to be committing genocide, as you're describing, why would it be that they're only doing this in response to one of the worst terror attacks in the history of our world that has been compared by many to Israel's 9/11, right? So let's start talking about what the primary goals
Well,
of the
they
military.
haven't started, their violence didn't
All
start on
right,
October
so
7th.
it's not going to work when you interrupt me, right? So let's go about that, right?
Well, you interrupted me 3 times trying to state the
Saying their
definition.
violence didn't start October 7th is incredibly wrong. Israel, as we all know, left Gaza in 2005. They've only returned for military operations, and their only presence in Gaza remains at the borders to ensure the safety of their citizens. And as such, Israel doesn't have that intent to kill these innocent civilians. However, when you have terrorist infrastructure embedded within all parts of society within Gaza, such as in hospitals, in schools, Israel has no choice but to destroy this terrorist infrastructure. If Israel wanted to deliberately destroy people from Gaza and the Palestinian people, there would be so many more efficient ways to do this. They're they're going about it in a way where they're really just targeting military personnel and trying to take out the 30,000 members of Hamas who are embedded in all aspects of Gazan society
Okay.
who have committed these terrible crimes against the Israeli
Okay,
people.
Richard, I just kind of want to set the tone for this discussion. Do you believe I have never heard these claims that you're making?
No, I'm not sure, but we're having a debate, and so that's how I'll start off my
Okay.
claims, and then I'm more than willing to hear your response to them.
Okay. So, in saying that the violence that Israel has committed against the Palestinians didn't start on October 7th, you claimed that that was wrong. Well, I mean, I have a world report up from 2019 that references at least, right, 34 Palestinians that were killed by munitions of Israel, right, just as of October 31st in 2019, right? So not even the whole year. And then also referencing that 80% of Gaza relies on humanitarian aid due to the 12-year closure of Gaza by Israel. So let's reference specifically those physical elements: killing members of the group and deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring upon its physical destruction in whole or in part. When you have a embargo that causes over 80% of the population to be reliant on humanitarian aid, that the humanitarian aid, even then, you limit to such an extent that it is one of the most food insecure areas in the world, they were committing genocide for a very, very long time. All that matters for them to have committed genocide isn't to be the most effective, G-siders in the world, the worst people in the world, the biggest killers of them, right? It is just for them to fit the qualities. So it's unequivocal that they have been fitting the physical element, right, of this crime for a very long time. We can talk about the mental element, but I think it's very clear that at least some statements and active policy goals of the Israeli government as it stands today is very clear, with the intent to destroy, in part, the national, ethnic, and racial and religious group, right, that composes the ethnic group of Palestinians, at least within the Gaza Strip, and clearly brutalization of them within the West Bank. That's a clear policy goal. So,
Yeah,
also, you said I was wrong. I don't
a
appreciate
lot of
you saying I was wrong when I wasn't.
a lot of elements of what you were saying. Sure, I mean, you can make these points, but it's about recognizing who's perpetuating all of these negative things that are happening in Gaza. And I think that anyone can recognize that Israel is not the governing body of the Gaza Strip. It's Hamas. And what does Hamas
It's an
do?
occupying force.
What does Hamas do with money they receive? What do they do? Do they
do
go
a series of things?
What do they do with aid they receive? Do they go and they give it to their people, the 2 million people who are struggling?
A portion of it, yeah.
Or do they? No, they don't. What they do is they take their money and they build the most elaborate tunnel system in the whole world to allow them to carry out terror attacks that are unparalleled to anywhere else. And you're sitting here with this look as if this is unbeknownst to you. Oh,
no, I'm aware of these claims. I'm just befuddled by the confidence with which you're saying something that's categorically wrong. Hamas, okay.
These tunnels
do you
exist,
think?
You know?
So it's not true that Hamas gives no humanitarian aid to its civilians.
All right, let's not talk in absolutes here. Obviously, we're not living in a world of absolutes, right?
You're saying nothing of value.
Okay, let me rephrase.
No,
you
but you said also
absolutes as a way for you to, prove your point. That's not going to work for me because you're not going to fool me with absolutes. The point is that Gaza gets humanitarian aid, and the majority of that aid goes towards Hamas. Okay, that is a fact. There is a reason why.
And
do you have
those numbers in front of you?
Pardon?
Do you have the numbers of what proportion they spent on, for example, social spending by comparison to defense spending?
I mean, you're asking for numbers that by no means belong.
You've made a claim about majority.
You're asking for numbers that would cease to exist in no world as a result of the governing body that lies in that territory. That doesn't mean that you can clearly see the negative effects that you have. That does not mean we cannot see the negative effects that you have cited throughout your whole discussion of the food insecurity going on in Gaza and all that stuff you brought up. And why would that be caused? That's not caused by Israel. That's caused by a government that has had the ability to run Gaza over the last 18 years and has done absolutely nothing to affect positive change within the territory.
Well, so first of all, it's been an occupied territory. It's been occupied by Israel for the past, at least, since 2012, so 11 years.
I don't know what this 2012 thing you're talking about is. Israel left Gaza in 2005. And then it
implemented a complete air, water, and ground blockade upon it in 2012.
I mean,
that's occupation.
That's not what occupation is.
Under international law, they are considered an occupying body.
What international law are you referring to?
I'm referring to the UN Charter. We can get the specific.
Are you really trying
specific statement under? It's Article 49, I believe, under the UN Charter.
Are you really trying to cite one of the most corrupt organizations in the world as a body of evidence within your argument? Because that.
Well, I mean, I already have cited. So, the Israel. I'm not citing the organization. I'm citing the document that Israel signed. Israel signed the UN Charter. Israel signed the UN Accords as well. And they incorporated it actually as part of signing it. You incorporate international law into your national law. So I'm actually citing to you Israeli law.
I don't really know how you can go and bring those lines together or draw them because, quite frankly, I don't know what anything the UN says has anything to do with what's going on in Israel. And I'd rather look at real governing bodies in our world.
Well, no, I'm talking about what Israeli incorporated international law into their national law. Do you understand that concept?
Oh, of course I understand that concept.
But so when you incorporate law into your own legal body, it means actually it becomes Israeli law. So I'm citing to you the Israeli understanding of occupation.
Yes. Yes, you are. But nonetheless, that doesn't change.
Nonetheless, you're still going to ignore it?
No, I'm not going to ignore the fact that you're insinuating that Israel's embedded within Gaza and is doing things on the daily to hurt civilians in times of not war.
Well, no, actually, Richard, all I said was that the claim that I'm making right now is that they're occupying Gaza, which they are, according to their own definition. You contest that, right? Making a character judgment of Israel or of the UN, which is totally useless. You've since lost that argument, and now you're trying to move on from it. But they are, in fact, occupying Gaza. And with occupying them, once again, according to their own laws, as they incorporated it with the international law, they have obligations to those Gazans.
I mean, how many gold medals does Gaza have?
What?
How many gold medals does Gaza have?
What does that have to do with anything I just said?
What do you mean? The more gold medals you have, the better of a country you are. What do you think the point
Gold
of
medals from whom?
What do you mean? From the Olympics? Where do you think you get a gold medal from?
I mean, you can get gold medal. I genuinely didn't know what you're talking about. I don't know how many gold medals the Palestinians have. Also, how many good athletes you have doesn't denote your quality living. I don't know.
What are you talking about?
Why is them having a gold medal relevant to them being occupied territory? Don't you think that an occupied territory maybe would have a worse showing in the Olympics?
I mean, the Olympics it's. Where did you go to school? Are you like university educated?
Yeah, I go to the University of Oxford.
In where's that? Sorry, I've never heard of it. Is that a European?
Liberal arts college south
I'm
of
American.
London.
Sorry, I go to University of Chicago. I'm not familiar with that's not an American university, no?
It's a small liberal arts college outside of London.
London, England?
But yeah.
What? Why are you like? Is it? It's crazy that I don't know University of what? Oxford?
Okay. The point is you're clearly attempting to deflect. I don't know why you're doing that. That's a pattern of abusers, right? Which I've had way too many in my life. But let's try and keep on topic. Israel's clearly occupying Gaza. That gives them obligations to Gazans. That means the starvation of Gazans due to their actions, at least in some form or fashion, falls within their purview and responsibility.
But I mean, nonetheless, it's
Very
what
little
is
argument there.
Israel supposed to do when they don't have the ability to control stuff because Hamas is running the territory, and Hamas is a terrorist organization. Doesn't want to collaborate with Israel.
They could feed them.
What do you
They
mean
could not engage in an illegal occupation. Once again, also, I'm just going to let another pro pally up for a second because I need to go get my food. But let's see if this pro pally is chill. All right, maybe it won't load.
Yeah.
I'm at Univ, everyone, if you were wondering. Let's see if that'll load. Oh, Kobe, you're chill.
Oh, purr. Hi, Will.
Hello.
Hi, I need to go get my food. Do you want to cover it for a second?
It's me, Kimberly, by the way.
What? Yeah, I know.
Let's dance.
Oh, sorry. It's me. Sorry. Ew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kimberly, do you want to cover it for a second? I need to go get my food and chill for a second.
Yeah, I can cover. Yeah, purr.
Thank you.
Exactly. No problem. So, Richard, what does the gold medal have to do with anything?
No, we moved on from the gold medals. I think that the primary point we were talking about is the whole point of you insinuating. Well, no, I don't know. It's not you, but your friend. I don't know if you know him, but maybe it's your friend. Insinuating that Israel has the obligation to feed the Palestinian people, to take care of them when they have no ability to collaborate with the government embedded within that territory.
Mm-hmm. So, do Palestinians have an airport in Gaza?
No, I don't believe there's an airport in Gaza.
Why do you think they don't have an airport?
I think that they don't have an airport because they've been proven time and time again to commit terrorist attacks at a rate that's unparalleled to anywhere else in the world.
That wasn't the question I asked you. Why don't they have an airport?
Why do you think they don't have an airport? I just answered. Are you not satisfied with my answer?
Who destroyed the airport?
You tell me.
Take a guess.
I don't know. The
Israeli government, the IDF, during the Second Intifada. Have you ever heard of Military Order 158?
The Second Intifada. Why don't you tell me what an Intifada is about? Tell me. Go say it.
The revolution.
No, revolution.
Yeah, you mean the one that was triggered because Ariel Sharon, who's a right-wing politician who also did the Sabra and Shatila massacre in 1982, where he went into Lebanon and unalived 3,000 Palestinian refugees who had fled from Palestine? You mean that one? That Ariel
Listen,
Sharon, the
if
one
you're
who
going to
wanted to
support,
trigger?
you're
No,
going to
one
support,
second. Wait,
if
one
you're, if
second,
you're going
Richard.
to be,
Wait, 1 second, Richard. The same Ariel Sharon who was accused of committing a genocide by the United Nations because he went into Lebanon, a country that doesn't belong to him, and unalived the 3,000 Palestinian refugees who had fled from Palestine, right? Who were victims of the Nakba. So that same Ariel Sharon who was terrorizing Palestinians even before, do you know when do you know when Hamas was created, Richard?
hummus?
The age group. Do you know when the age group was created?
Did you just ask me when was hummus created? Like with
No,
crackers?
I meant I don't want to get Will's live taken down. Do you know when the age group was created?
What age group of what?
The age group.
You mean who? Like Hamas? Are you referring to Hamas?
Yeah, when were they created?
I believe that Hamas started in, I think it was 2005 when they took over Gaza instead of the PLO.
No,
I could be mistaken.
1987 during the first Intifada. Do you know when the Sabra and Shatila massacre happened?
You see, the biggest issue I have here.
Richard,
Listen,
can you please stick to one point?
you've been talking, and now I'm
No,
going to
wait,
respond.
hold on. Do you know when the Sabra and Shatila massacre happened?
No, I don't. Enlighten me.
In 1982.
Well,
Okay.
no, I
So
think
this was prior to the military wing of Hamas ever being created, right? Prior to them being militarized.
you're not.
Ariel Sharon, the same man who went into the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, which triggered the Second Intifada, after the Camp David summit even crumbled, he was the one who was in charge of unaliving 3,000 Palestinian people before H Group even existed, right?
At a certain
So
point,
again,
at a certain point,
Richard, wait, hold on,
at a certain point, you will not stop talking and let me respond. This is ridiculous. You
Yeah,
have to
I
let me
asked you
talk.
questions, but you
You are
wouldn't
just
let me
going on
answer.
rants and rants. That is not a debate. A debate is a
Okay.
two-sided thing where two people respond to each other. Okay? And it's now my time to respond. And the first thing I'm going to talk about, is antifadas. Antifadas are violent riots. There is no world in Western civilization where we support violent riots, we support innocent people being killed. Whether there's a response to it, I don't care what someone did. There is never anything right about killing other people. And you saying that an antifada is okay because Ariel Sharon did this, he did that, that's not how this world works. Maybe you live in a world where you can kill someone and we'll kill someone back, but I live in a world where all murder is wrong, all death is wrong, and we don't try and kill innocent people. But you seem to be justifying it with all
So I
these things
guess
that you are alleging the Israeli government did.
So
And
I guess
don't live
George
in a world
Washington was
where we
all wait, I
justify
guess George
murder.
Washington
Maybe you
I
do,
guess you
but I
don't wait,
don't.
hold on. I guess you don't celebrate the 4th of July then, Richard, right? Because George Washington was also a terrorist? Because wasn't that also
Well, luckily
revolution?
for
The
you, I'm not
American
American, so I
Wait,
don't
hold
celebrate the
on,
4th of
Richard.
July.
Hold on, Richard. Because first of all, it's not antifada, it's intifada,
All right,
right?
you can correct me and try and
Intifada
make yourself
basically
feel
hold
good about
on
yourself.
one
I
second,
don't really care.
Richard, you're scaring me. Calm down. You don't have to be so angry. So again, if you say that you don't support a revolution, right? Does that mean that you don't celebrate the 4th of July? And
Okay,
you don't
so
celebrate the founding fathers
you're
or
asking me
George
questions
Washington?
and you're not letting me respond. You're saying we're support the 4th of July, so I'm actually not even
Oh,
American,
sure. Bon
so I
appetit.
don't support the 4th of July. I don't care about
Richard,
the man
didn't you say you were American?
I go
Yeah,
to University
literally.
of Chicago, but I'm not American.
Where are
I'm
you from?
What's
Canadian.
your national origin?
I'm Canadian.
Okay.
So I don't support the 4th of July, and I don't support the founding fathers. So I don't see why
So
that's
you think
relevant.
George Washington
And
was
you
a
are
terrorist?
referring to
Do you
I don't
think
want to
George
say it wrong
Washington
because
was
I
a
feel like you'll
do you
correct
think
me. But you said Intifada. I don't know. I don't really know the
do you
pronunciation.
think George Washington was a terrorist, Richard? Or a
No, I most certainly
fighter?
do not, and neither
Why
does
not though?
because I see the world with a critical lens, not a lens of whatever. I mean, you are. I mean, the American.
But I
I mean,
thought you
obviously,
said
I'm going to support the American government. It's the
but I thought
America
you
is the
said
epitome of a democracy. It's the epitome of a Western world. I'm not going to go and
But I
sit
thought
all
you
over.
said you don't support revolutions because revolutions are violent.
Oh,
Which is why you said you didn't support the first and second Intifada, right?
I
And
don't know
Intifada just
why we're
means
talking about America.
hold
I'm
on
not educated on
1 second,
American
Richard.
history or American
Wait,
politics.
hold
As
on,
I'm not an American.
wait, 1 second, Richard, 1 second, right? You said you don't support the Intifada, which just basically means revolution. or uprising in Arabic, right? It doesn't mean anything else. But then you turn around and you're saying you support the American Revolution. You said that there was no
I
revolution.
never said I support the American Revolution.
Okay, so then you think that George Washington was a terrorist.
I don't know anything about George Washington. I'm Canadian. I don't care about George Washington. I don't care.
So
Why are you
then
talking about George Washington? I don't care about George Washington.
Calm down, Richard. I don't understand why you're being so angry. Like, you don't have to scream.
No, trust me, I'm not angry.
We can have a civilized conversation, right?
All right, but you know.
So
you keep talking about
if you're
George
saying,
Washington.
hold on, if you're saying that you can't comment on American history because you have no idea about American history, why are you commenting on Palestinian history when you have no idea about Palestinian history?
Well, I actually have British origins, and maybe you don't know this, but I'll inform you that Britain actually ran the Palestinian territory from 1918, I believe, after the Second World War, until they gave it to the Israeli people in 1948. And what was? You gotta let me talk. What happened in 1948? They gave it.
What was it called?
Sorry. Just to be extraordinarily clear, the British did not give it.
Thank you.
Actually,
yes, they did. It was the UN partition. The British agreed to do it.
This is what's funny. I actually know the history. Prior to that, in 1937, the British handed over control of that mandate following a series of terror attacks by what would later become the IDF, right? And they gave the mandate over to the UN. The UN then did the British mandate, or did the partition plan. Okay, it was the UN's action. It was not the British action. Those are two different things. Also, if you're going to label terrorists, right, or T groups, right, it's very clear that if you have British origins and want to talk from a British perspective, the IDF, at the very least, inherited a legacy of T-ism, because the British, for 20 or 30 years, labeled, right, the IDF's founding members as T-ists against them.
But also, wait, hold on, wait, can I add on to that as well?
Guys, you gotta give me a chance to talk. I can't argue against you.
You're gonna respond. 1 second, calm down. Let's have a civilized conversation.
I'm very, very calm.
Yes, you're kind of.
I am. Yes, I am.
Right?
Yes,
but anyways, the United Nations partition plan was also just a proposal. Right? It was a proposal that was nullified because the Palestinian side did not even have actual representation. It was the Arab countries that represented them, but Palestinians were never asked, right? They were never brought into the negotiation process. And the moment that it was rejected, it was nullified. It was just a proposal. So the United Nations did not give Israel the land. The British did not give Israel the land because they didn't actually own the land, because Palestine was not a colony. It was a mandate. The people who established Israel were the militia that Will just mentioned: the Haganah, the Irgun, the Sterngang, the Palmach. Those are the groups that established Israel. It wasn't the United Nations. It wasn't the British, Richard.
All right. So, am I good to respond now?
Yeah, you can.
You obviously are, Richard. What did I say about literally everyone doing this? Richard, you entered this discussion interrupting me 3 times. And then now you're bitching and moaning about being interrupted.
I just asked if I could respond. And
then every single serial interrupter, as I said, does this same move. It's immature and it's predictable.
I'm responding, okay? So, you were talking a lot about how the Palestinians didn't have a seat at the table in 1948, and as such, the agreement was nullified. So it's important to recognize that at that time, there were Muslim people living in Israel, there were Jewish people living in Israel, and I'm not sure if there was a Christian population. I believe there was a small one. I could be mistaken. Nonetheless,
there was.
Yeah, nonetheless, it's not really that relevant. Because what happened is that the UN partition was to give the Jews part of the territory, majority of it being the desert, and to give the Arabs another half of the territory. And the Arabs weren't happy with sharing the territory with the Jews. They wanted it all to themselves. And so what happened? They all waged war on Israel.
Can I respond?
And so, can you respond? I
thought you were done.
I'm pretty sure your friend here just labeled me immature for doing the exact same thing. And
but she was actually correct. You weren't done talking, so the question was productive.
Well, there's nothing wrong with clarifying. Nonetheless, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I was talking about how the Arabs waged war on the Jewish people as a result of their inability to accept that they wanted to share the land. And so what happened is they waged war. They obviously lost because they always lose and they always will lose. And so they lost parts of the land as a result of that. But they're the ones who waged that war, and you're the one who admitted it. You said that they didn't agree with that deal, and so they waged war. And once you wage war, I mean, you're leaving yourself up to anything. And now you may respond.
Okay, good. So the Palestinian Arab Congress actually in 1928 voted for Jewish political representation in a unitary state. In 1947, the Palestinian Arab Congress had another vote yet again for a unitary state. Palestinians have always wanted a unitary state where Jewish, Christians, Muslims, Baha'i, Samaritans can live together within that unitary state, right? So the negotiation process did not include Palestinians at all. They did not ask them for consent if they wanted the other Arab leaders to represent them, right? So that would be like, let's say you are married, you have a divorce, you're in the midst of a custody battle, and then your partner takes your neighbor without asking you for consent, without you saying your neighbor can represent you, and then your partner and your neighbor go to court, right? And then they decide on
You
the
don't need to
custody
walk me
of
through
your
the
children.
implications of not having a seat at the table.
I'm not done, right? So quiet down a little bit. Let me finish, right? So at least have some respect because I muted and I let you monologue. But so imagine if then your partner and then your neighbor went to court to represent you on your behalf. Do you think that would be a valid decision without you being taken into account, your needs, your interests?
Well, considering that there was no Palestinian government, and there's never been such a thing within the history of our world leading up to that point, I find it fair that the Arab countries can represent the Palestinian people because
No, the Palestinian Arab Congress actually existed, right? So when the British Mandate, which again wasn't a colony, it was just like had administrative duties, the Palestinians were still governing themselves under the Palestinian Arab Congress. So there was a possibility for them to be represented through the Palestinian Arab Congress. They just were not asked. They were not included in the what's called in the negotiation process. And second of all, fun fact, there was no Israeli government either. There was no Israeli government either, and yet the Zionists were still included in the negotiation process. Palestinians were not, Richard. And because they were not included, they were not obligated to agree with the partition plan, which again was just a proposal. Right? And also that proposal included a couple of conditions, and those conditions were that a Palestinian state needed to be recognized. And then a couple of years later, resolution 194, I think, or 192, I think 194, was that Palestinian refugees needed to be returned back to their home, like to their villages. And Israel agreed to those conditions, but never ever fulfilled those conditions. So the Jewish
194.
militia, the Haganah, the Irgun, the Sterngang, the Palmach, illegally established the state of Israel through active violence, which was known as the Nekba, which started in 1947 and then ended towards the late 1948, where they displaced over 750,000 people, destroyed over 531 villages, and unalived over 15,000 people. So technically, by your logic, they were also terrorists.
I don't really know how we got to that. I mean, that was a really long monologue with a lot of connections and lines being drawn between them. And quite frankly, I don't know how that makes Israeli people fighting to save, Jewish people living in the land of Israel fighting to save their lives terrorists. But I guess if that's the type of line of reasoning that you like to go by, and
you brought it up, Richard.
I don't think I ever called.
You did. You said revolutions and uprisings were terrorism. You brought it up.
I did not say I never said revolutions are terrorism. I said
intifada. You did.
I said antifadas are terrorism.
First of all, it's not antifada. It's not antifada. It's intifada.
I don't care what the correct pronunciation is.
So
Either way,
so
get my point.
is literally Okay, and no, I have to correct it because you're saying it wrong, right? So an intifada is literally a revolution or an uprising. And you said that that was violent, but then when it comes to other revolutions in the West, for example, all of a sudden they're not violent. When it comes to, let's say, the Jewish militias, like the Hagana, the Irgun, and the Palmach, and the Sterngang, which were actively labeled as terrorist groups, so much so that Albert Einstein, with a bunch of other European Jewish people in 1948 wrote a letter that was published in the New York Times, even criticizing the Jewish militia, specifically Menachem Begin, saying that they were using fascistic tactics and equated them to the Yazis. That was Albert Einstein, right? So it was well recognized, even by the American government, that they did use terrorist tactics to establish the state of Israel illegally.
I mean, you can talk about all that, but you also have to recognize that the Arabs and the Palestinian people were completely unwilling to split any of the land with the Jews. And that's why they waged war on them in 1948.
Why do you think they didn't want to split the land?
I mean, the land is not the Palestinians. I mean, we can go back thousands of years. I mean, we all know that the land belongs to the Jews. I mean, you can look in the Quran. They refer to Jews as, I believe the word is, it's Judeas or something like that. But either way, the meaning of that word is the people of Judea. Judea is the land of Israel.
Wait, that's not true. So I'm going to jump in here just for a second.
Yeah.
Do you know the territorial extent of the Kingdom of Judea, Richard?
Sorry. Give me a second.
You can, yeah. I'm going to see if I can find it in my camera roll, just so we're extraordinarily clear about this. Womp womp womp. Okay. So that's the first symbol, but then let's see if we can find it. So just for everyone's reference, this is the partition plan. That's the partition plan. Deeply unfair, extraordinarily unfair. If you look at the proportion of arable land, for example. But then I surely have it somewhere.
Can I just hop in for a sec?
Yeah.
Do you mind? I guess you have your friend Kobe. Do you mind adding? I have a friend. I believe it's Gishmak Herring. He's requesting to join. Would you mind adding him in?
Sure. I typically don't do panels, and TBH I was going to end the panel, but we can have a short little.
It'll be productive.
Gishmak Herring.
Oh.
What's up, gang?
What's up, Queens? Do you know the territorial extent of Judea?
Like the ancient province?
Well, not so. We're talking about the Kingdom of Judea, right?
Like when it existed?
What?
Like when it existed? Like under King David? Like is that like you're talking
under
about
King David, not the province under Rome.
This is a lot before the Roman Empire, the Kingdom of Judea.
Well, I'm aware. So you asked about the province, which was the Roman.
No, like
control of Judea.
Okay, province, kingdom. It's just like that.
It was known as a province under Rome, and then it was known as a kingdom when it was self-ruling, and then it was actually known as a different kingdom following Rome, and then it went back under Roman control, and then it went under Babylonian control, then it went under Ottoman control. We could go through the whole history, but I was pulling it up because I don't think David has any clue what he's talking about when he claims that, references Judea as the only occupants of the land when they never occupied that entire territory that they claim is Israel. If anyone wants to look up the territorial extent of the Kingdom of Judea,
this is before the Roman Empire. You're asking before the Roman Empire?
Yep.
Okay, like what exactly the territory was?
Yeah. Did it include the current territory of Israel?
Like Judea is a part of the current kingdom, like current country of Israel.
But is it the entirety?
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay, yeah, that's my point. So even if you want to claim that, Jews are the sole and only inheritors of the Kingdom of Judea, right? That would not justify the land claims of Israel because they go well beyond the old land claims of Judea. It's also obviously wrong, right? The people of Judea came from the Canaanite people, right, who had their own political systems and political sovereignty in certain territories across tribal lands that was very varied. And who has more Canaanite DNA than most Jews? Most Palestinians. So if we really want to talk about who the indigenous people are, well, I think a lot of Jewish people are indigenous, and I think a lot of Palestinian people are indigenous. To claim that one of these peoples who have done a lot of swapping throughout history, because by the way, a lot of Palestinians have converted to Judaism, and a lot of Jews in the area converted to Islam. There's been a lot of swapping. So this just isn't how indigeneity works. Do you agree with Richard's genuinely ahistorical claim that the Jews are the only inheritors of this land?
That Jews are the only inheritors of this land.
Yeah.
I believe that Jews are a inheritor of the land. I don't believe Palestinians like inherited the land. They
Do you think that a lot of Palestinian people are indigenous?
Yeah, I'd say some Palestinian people are indigenous.
Wonderful. Yeah.
100%. I believe that this land should be shared between Jews and Palestinians.
I agree. That's what the Palestinians wanted as well prior to the partition plan.
Can I ask this briefly?
Sure.
I just want to add this one little thing, and that is Palestinians in general are very, very closely tied to the Canaanites. You can see Canaanite culture still being celebrated by the Palestinians. Like, for example, the Debka, which is the dance that Palestinians do, where they are holding hands in a circle or holding a stick and dancing. That can directly be found in Canaanite culture. You also have tatriz, which is the way that they sew their clothing or their tobe, their traditional clothing. That is also found in Canaanite culture. Oops, sorry. And then you also have the hats, the long hats that people wear, the Palestinian people wear with their traditional clothing. That can also be found in Canaan, like archaeologically has been found in Canaanite statues, right? So you have the tatriz, you have the way that olive oil is also prepared, and you have the debka. So it shows that Palestinian people are closely linked with the Canaanites. They're only Arabized Canaanites, and they're not tribal Arabs from the Arabian Peninsula.
Wow, that's super interesting. I never knew that about the dancing. Thanks for telling me. But Jews also have like many cultural practices that tie directly to the land Israel. Did you know that too?
Oh,
Like,
I
hope you're
never,
not
I
making the
never, I
argument at
never
the expense of
dismissed.
Jews.
Yeah, I never
because-
dismissed that ethnic Jewish people are indigenous to the land. I never
Okay.
dismissed that part. I'm
Right.
just saying that
Only Richard did,
Palestinians.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying
Richard
that.
was the only one that said someone wasn't indigenous.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, so what should we talk about now?
Do you agree with Richard? Why? Like, what's the? I don't know your positions, brother.
Position on what exactly?
I don't know. Do you agree with like anything Richard has said? Richard was the one that asked you to be brought up. If you kind of agree that the land should be shared between the Israelis or between the Jews and the Arabs, then generally you and I would
Like
agree.
I believe in theory that the land should be shared between Jews and Palestinians and anyone who wants to live there, but I think in practice that is just like, as we've seen, that just can't happen right now. Like ideally that would be amazing, Ideally, like Jewish kids can go to school and learn, Judaism across the street from a Palestinian school, like in this land that they both come from. But unfortunately, there's just so much fighting, and there's been, a long history of bloodshed and violence. And, I know both sides that want the people to live in their ancestral land. And it's just a tragedy that there can't be peace there because it's a holy land, That's what
Yeah,
I'm
great. That sounds drastically different than what Richard's saying. I'm just wondering, Richard, why'd you ask this guy to bring up? It's kind of awkward because like we're kind of agreeing. It's really awkward when everyone agrees that like humans deserve rights.
No, but I think Israelis deserve rights too. Like so do Palestinians.
I don't disagree.
Oh.
Can I ask Richard a question, Will?
Sure.
Do you think Israel's an apartheid state?
Ooh, me?
I was asking Richard that question, but you can answer if you want to
Yeah,
as well.
sorry, I'm just on mute. I'm taking a fat shit.
Oh,
Not necessary.
that wasn't
Richard,
funny.
it's great that
Richard.
your body's working as it should be, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, so the definition of apartheid, I actually don't think it's an apartheid state. But I assume you probably do. And if you want to talk about that, we totally can.
Yeah. So have you read the United Nations Apartheid Convention and the definition there?
No, I have not, but my mom was actually born in South Africa and lived, the first 20 years of her life in apartheid. So I know kind of the gist of it.
So what do
And
you
I've
think
also been in
about South
Israel.
Africa? What do you think about South Africa labeling it also an apartheid state?
South Africa labeling Israel apartheid state?
Mhm.
I think it's pretty silly because, the things that made South Africa apartheid don't really happen in Israel. And I'm happy to get into that. if you
Okay,
want to.
so I can let me so in order for a state not to be an apartheid state, there should be equal law that is applicable to all citizens, right? Israeli
100,
citizens.
100% equal to all
Okay,
citizens.
so the law of return, who does it apply to?
It applies to Jews.
What about the non-Jewish Arab Israelis?
Are they a non-Jewish Arab Israelis who
Mhm.
live in Israel?
Mhm.
Well, why would they apply for the right of return if they live in Israel?
Because they were separated from their family members during the Nakba. And a lot
Arab
of them
Israelis who currently live in
asked, a
Israel.
lot of them have asked for their separated family members to return to Israel. And these are
Oh, so
Israeli
are you saying?
citizens, but they're not
So you're saying
Jewish.
the family of Arab Israelis?
The
families of them?
family members of Arab Israelis, they have asked for the family members of Arab Israelis to return back home. So does the law of return apply to them?
I do not think it applies to them. No.
Okay, so that is one law that doesn't apply equally to everybody. What is the nation
But
state law?
let's choose a different law because that's like a gray area. You know, there's Jewish sovereignty in the land. You know, it's a Jewish state.
That's not a gray area.
It's not like it's
Yeah.
not a Palestinian state. It's a Jewish state.
But so but it was also South Africa was also a British white state.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made it apartheid.
Well, what made it
The
South
fact
Africa
that the
apartheid-
fact that a state has chosen to give legal preference to one ethnicity or religion is what makes it not good.
Mm-hmm. And also an ethnocracy and not a democracy. But what is the nation state law, Gishmak?
the nation state law. Can you tell me what the nation state law is, please?
Yeah, so the nation state law was passed in 2018. There were three important points to the nation state law. Number one, that only Jewish people in Israel have self-determination. Arab Israelis don't have self-determination. So that is one distinction that is made. Number two, the status of Arabic as a language is demoted, and Jewish is kind of elevated, right, or pedestalized within Israeli society. And number three, the establishment of and the expansion of Jewish settlements is to be promoted and supported by the Israeli government. Arab Israelis, non-Jewish Arab Israelis, are not allowed to expand any settlements, are not allowed to have any settlements, basically. So that is what the nation state law states, and it was passed in 2018. So,
Cool.
Hebrew, sorry, it was Hebrew, not Jewish. I said Jewish. I meant Hebrew with the second point. Yeah, so that law also doesn't apply to non-Jewish Arab Israelis.
Huh. That's so interesting. Well, I mean, you know, Israel's a Jewish state, and it's going to stay a Jewish state. And obviously, you know, sometimes countries pass laws that are controversial, and it seems, based on what you just said, this one is a little bit. And sure, Am Yisrael freaking chai.
And do you know what the Jewish National Fund is?
Yes, they're like an organization, I guess, that raises money to like build stuff in Israel for Jews, I guess.
They buy land, they lease land, they can mortgage. They also get rid of olive groves and plant European pine trees. The JNF currently owns about 90% of the land in Israel. Who does the JNF rent to?
I don't know.
To only Jewish people.
No freaking way.
The JNF, no, the JNF stipulates, right, that it
But what
can
does JNF
only
stand for?
rent
What does JNF stand for?
Jewish National Fund.
And they only donate to Jewish people?
Not donate. They only rent land or sell it to Jewish citizens.
Really?
Mhm.
No freaking way. The JNF, the Jewish National Fund, only rents land to Jews in their
Yeah,
ancestral
so what
homeland?
happens to so if you're claiming it's not an apartheid state, how come there are laws that apply differently depending on if you're Jewish or non-Jewish?
I think the right of return law is just like a difficult law to just. Can we just discuss any other law? Like, are there any others
I mentioned
That-
I mentioned two other points.
Okay, what are
Yeah.
other
But
ones?
that law
For
is
citizens?
foundational to Israel.
Hmm?
That law, the right of return, is foundational to the entire existence of Israel, right? It was one of the first laws passed by the Israeli Congress. And so you can't just disregard one of the most important laws in Israeli history. But second of all, you defended that law by saying, yeah, it is a Jewish state. Once again, That's like if I went to Ireland, right, and said, yeah, this is a British state. South Africa, yeah, this is a British state. This is a white state. Of course, we give the right to live here to white people. Yeah, you can say, yeah, of course it's apartheid, just in different words. You're just agreeing.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, but also you said you knew about South African apartheid,
Yeah,
right?
so in South Africa, what happened is like there's like separate bathrooms for colored people and white people, you know?
Like,
In Israel, you don't see anything like that. Like there are literally
did
Arabs, there are Arab
mhm.
Muslims in the Israeli government who have
So
like political parties.
did black South Africans have citizenship during apartheid?
I think they did. I think that's the whole point of
No,
apartheid.
no, they didn't. Black South,
Didn't you tell me the whole part of apartheid was if citizens are treated differently?
no, not necessarily only citizens, just people living within a country or within a territory. So
Really?
black
Really?
South
Nationals.
Yeah. So black South Africans actually did not were not granted citizenship. That was also the
Okay.
main issue with
So you're
apartheid,
saying
right?
because they lived in
So
the
for
same country.
example,
Sorry.
hmm
So you're saying because they live in the country and they're subject to different rulings, that's apartheid?
no, I'm not talking about Israeli citizens now.
No, in South Africa.
In South Africa, exactly. They were denied citizenship.
Okay, I see. But
So
in Israel, there are, a lot of Palestinians aren't citizens of Israel.
but no, Palestinian Israelis are citizens of Israel.
Yes, and
Because you
they,
have that term Arab Israeli, which I don't necessarily like, right? Because not all Arab Israelis are Palestinians. You have the Druze, you have the Bedouins, you have other groups of people as well, which are just categorized as Arab Israeli, which is why I'm specifically talking about Palestinian Israelis, right? But what about the West Bank? What is the West Bank divided into?
it's divided into like 3 different areas based on how much Israeli control is in each area, right?
And do the settlers and the Palestinians, like Palestinians living in the West Bank, do they go to the same courts? Do they fall under the same jurisdiction?
No, I doubt it. I don't think
Okay.
any Israeli, any Jew who's living in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it, would
Mm-hmm.
go to a Palestinian court. And I would also, like, no Palestinian would go to a Jewish court in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria,
So
the
it's
land.
military court, basically, military law and civil court. So settlers go to civil court and Palestinians go to military court, which has a conviction rate about 99%, right?
Why did you
So
say
that is
settlers and not
also
Jews?
another example of apartheid. One last thing I want to say. Jewish people, are they legally allowed to marry non-Jewish people in Israel?
Legally, under the rabbinate, I don't think
Mhm.
so. I don't think they are allowed to because
Okay.
it's like a Jewish law, like from the
So
Torah, from the
so what
Bible.
happens if a Jewish Israeli person falls in love with a Palestinian person and knowing full well that Palestinian people are barred from getting naturalized? So Palestinian person can never be naturalized even if they marry an Israeli person, right? So
What does that
let's
mean to be
say
naturalized?
to get citizenship.
Oh,
You live in a country for a couple of years. Depending on each country, they have different like years, right? You fulfill all the conditions, and then you can apply for citizenship, and you become naturalized, right? And Palestinians are actually barred from naturalization, even if they're a spouse of an Israeli. So, what happens if an Israeli
yeah, they're
Jewish
barred.
citizen
Okay, yeah.
marries a Palestinian? Can they live in
Mhm.
Israel proper?
Well, okay, so first of all, they'd have to leave Israel to get married. They wouldn't be able to get married in Israel. And you're asking if they can live in Israel? I don't know. Can they?
No, they have to move to the West Bank.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So tell me how
I
this
guess
isn't an
since
apartheid
okay.
state with all of these restrictions. I mean, like with all the things I've listed, that kind of sounds like an apartheid state, doesn't it?
Well, it's so obviously an apartheid state, just for like, he can have whatever knowledge of South Africa he wants. We can just reference the UN's Convention on Apartheid, and they define it really clearly, right? So they define it shall include similar policies and practices of racial segregation and discrimination as practiced in South Africa shall apply to the following inhumane acts committed for the purposes of establishing and maintaining domination of one racial group or another over another group of peoples and systemically oppressing them. That includes things like any legislative measures and other measures calculated to prevent a racial group from participation in social, political, economic, cultural life of the country and the deliberate creation of conditions to prevent the full development of such a group, in particular by denying members of that racial group or groups basic human rights and freedoms, right? So, and it literally names out, such as the right to work, the right to recognize trade unions, the right to education, the right to leave and return to their country, the right to a nationality, the right to freedom of movement and residency, the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. Do we want to remind everyone what has happened basically every time the Palestinians have organized a assembly? Do we remember the limited nationality access that Palestinians have? Or, for example, the denial of the Nakba refugees, their nationality and their right to return to the country, simply on the basis of their racial and ethnic group, right? That was the reasoning they provided for the Nakba. Literally, the Israeli policy is that it would be an ethno-demographic threat. They are saying verbatim their intent, so we should believe them. So yeah, absolutely. Everything you pointed out literally falls under very clearly Article 2, right? International Convention on Suppression and Punishment of the Crime of Apartheid.
Mm-hmm. Let's not go
So
into
Palestinians can't become Israeli citizens?
Palestinian spouses. If they're married to Israelis, they cannot become Israeli citizens. No,
Can any Palestinians become like Israeli citizens?
they've
Can they
been.
Through
not?
conversion.
Anyone?
Through conversion, they could, just to be clear.
Okay. I guess like that. Okay. Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. But also like,
But if I force
yeah.
you to convert to my cultural religion, that's, denying you your right to your freedom of opinion and expression, and would be assimilation and would be a part of, apartheid. And some would consider it, actually, the UN would consider it cultural genocide as well.
Yeah, which is also genocide basically.
No freaking way.
Yeah.
That's actually crazy.
So did you know that B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, including Amnesty International, including Human Rights Watch and United Nations, label Israel an apartheid state?
Can you repeat that, please?
I said B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization that is based in Tel Aviv, that was founded in the 1980s, and Human Rights Watch and United Nations and also Amnesty International all claim Israel to be an apartheid state.
I know lots of people claim Israel to be an apartheid state. Tons.
These aren't people though. These are human rights organizations.
Yeah, and so is like the UN, no? The UN
The
claims
UN
to be a human rights organization.
Yeah, and the UN claims Israel to be an apartheid state as well.
Yeah, but it's the UN. Like the UN is broken.
Yeah, but you ignored the other three that she cited. Do you know what those are?
No, I know a bunch of people think Israel's an apartheid state, but like at the end of the day, the real ones know it's not.
What about B'Tselem?
So do you know what? Yeah.
Sorry.
But do you know what Amnesty is? Do you know what Human Rights Watch is? Do you know what B'Tselem is?
It's like, as Human Rights Watch, like this, like probably some sort of like thingy that just looks at countries and is like, bang, apartheid.
So is your answer no?
What are you talking about?
So your answer is no. You don't know what they are.
Like I've heard of them, but no, you could tell me what they are. I guess my answer is no.
Okay, my answer is okay. If you.
By the way, I really like your sweater thing that you're wearing.
Thank you. I thrifted it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't love apartheid or apartheid apologists.
True. I mean,
the thing is like you've been really nonchalant. Actually, I'm just going to address this because it's been really annoying me. You've been extremely nonchalant when we've been presenting you evidence of the country and peoples that you have been protecting and advocating for committing one of the worst crimes known to humanity, and you've been laughing it off and scoffing it off.
Jeez. Okay, I think
I have insomnia, but I don't even understand how you sleep at night with that.
Yeah.
Like, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we maintain the Californian accent, right, while talking about genocide and talking about apartheid and talking about these horrendous things happening to these people? I don't understand, right? And you see how that's incredibly offensive. And we've been tolerating it because we speak to, despicable people all the time. But quiet evil is notably worse than allowed evil. So could you explain yourself?
Yeah, well, to be honest, like I kind of just joined because my friend sent me the link and they were like, hop in. I didn't really know any of your opinions, but usually like when I'm talking about Israel with people and they say words like apartheid or genocide, it's usually just anti-Semitism. So I don't think we'll be able to get any common ground. But I wish everyone best of luck, and I hope one day there'll be peace in the land.
Can you explain how it's anti-Semitic?
And Am Yisrael Cha.
Wait, hold on. Can you explain how it's anti-Semitic?
Sure.
Yeah, you can't just throw out that accusation.
Okay. I'll try. So one thing a lot of people say is that Israel's committing genocide, right?
Because it is.
Are you accusing us of being anti-Semitic, just to be very clear?
Well, I'm saying a lot of people say that Israel's committing genocide.
No, I want you to be very direct because I don't want any horrendous accusations, right, to
Okay.
be lost here. If you're going to say it with your full throat.
Okay. I think you might accidentally be anti-Semites. You might, maybe. I don't know.
Make your accusation. Are you saying that we are?
No, I'm saying you might be, but I'm saying like you're saying something that is anti-Semitic. But can I just cook?
What did we say and how was it anti-Semitic? Yeah.
Okay, so Covey 2.0. I don't know your name, but you said that right now
I think that's my name.
Israel is committing genocide, right?
Yeah.
If Israel's committing genocide, well, first of all, genocide is like when you try to delete a race from the planet, right?
No, that's not the
really.
definition.
What's the definition of genocide?
Wait, I actually, you said to let you cook. Would us being wrong about them committing genocide be anti-Semitic?
Oh, here, I found that definition. Wait, what did you just ask?
Just to kind of speed this along, would us being wrong about them committing genocide be anti-Semitic?
I don't know. But can I
know something?
If Israel is committing genocide, then wouldn't you expect the Palestinian population to decrease?
Wait, but this isn't prove that you said we were anti-Semitic. That is incredibly offensive, right? When I have a deep respect for the Jewish, culture. I have a deep respect for, parts of my family that are Jewish. I hate anti-Semites. I live to fight against people like anti-Semites. I don't know what you've just accused us of, right? And I want to know if you're going to use this term, which is incredibly offensive to me and incredibly personally valuable to me, that we actually attack anti-Semites. I don't want it to be tokenized for cheap political gain. So I want you to tell us what we did that was anti-Semitic, so I know that you aren't one of those disgusting people that are tokenizing it to maintain a genocidal society.
Okay, so
tell me, what did I do that was anti-Semitic? What did I do that was offensive to my family? What did I do that was offensive to my friends? What did I do to this culture that I've lived around and been submerged in for my whole life? What did I do?
Well, I feel like you're just holding Israel to a different standard than any other country. Was America committing?
Did I talk about any other country?
Well, was America committing genocide after 9/11 when they bombed Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever?
Oh, I would consider them, yeah.
Really?
I would consider them to have genocidal intent against the Arabs in Pakistan, or the Arabs in certain areas in Iraq, right?
Okay, yeah, then I guess according to you and your definition of genocide, then Israel has genocidal intentions, according to you. But
the UN's definition.
Huh?
But once again, tell me how I'm anti-Semitic, or pull back the claim.
Okay, I pull back the claim. You're right.
Okay.
And you have a cool sweater. Wait, but can we
Still
talk?
not cool. Go fuck yourself.
Whoa.
That was genuinely kind of weird.
Yeah, and on that, I also am going to end the live, just because I need to go to bed at a reasonable time.
Yeah, me too. No, legitimate, me too. But thank you for letting me up. This is my new account, by the way. The Kimberly account is gone, so just wanted to tell you
Cool.
that.
I think I follow you on here.
No, I think this one is quite new. I think follow the Kimberly one. Oh,
There we
okay.
go.
Anyways, thank you for letting me up.
Thanks
I hope you have a good night. Bye.
It's been lovely. Bye. Okay, my loves. I'm going to go. I am emotional when someone accuses me of being anti-Semitic. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm free to be emotional. I'm allowed to be emotional when someone accuses me of being anti-Semitic. I have much worse words than I can say on TikTok to say to someone that accuses me of being anti-Semitic. But anyway. Before TikTok takes down my account, what I'm going to say is there are 1,500 people on here. It means the world to me that people sit and listen to me. Basically all I've wanted my whole life. And it means the world to me that I can have some form of impact on what all of you think and what all of you know. And Kimberly knows way more than I do. Mad respect to her. An incredible, incredible person. So do go drop her a follow if you can. Support her in any way you can. And we are building a community around this. So go join my Discord. And also I want to be able to continue to create and make and do this and advocate and have these discussions. So if you can go follow my YouTube so that TikTok can't really take me down. That would mean the world as well, because they're coming after all of us, right? They took down Dean today, or maybe yesterday. But love you all. Please go follow me on my TikTok. Please just go to my link tree. Follow me that. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much for everyone sent a gift, and I'm sorry for everyone who I wasn't able to get to today. I'm sure you're all cool people, but I will let you up later.